Welcome to this last session on today's payments conference. And this last session will be about the future of cards. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the honor to be part of this payments conference. And thanks a lot to Nada Maleki and the International Bankers Forum for the organization of the conference and also to have us in for this session. Our last session will have 3 agenda points. So first, we have an introductory session for the participants, so the experts taking part in this last session. Second, we have statements by the speakers of around 5 minutes to give an introductory to the challenges on future of cards. And third, we follow a discussion on various points on the future of cards. So please let me start with the introduction of the participants of our session. So I would like to welcome 3 speakers, Barnabas Ferenczi, Dr. Andreas Martin, and Marco Rummer. So first, let me introduce Barnabas Ferenczi from Munich. Hello, Barnabas. Great to have you here. So Barnabas Ferenczi leads strategy and marketing in the smart card and digital payments business of Giesecke and Devrient, a global security technologies group. The motto, I would say, of Barnabas is there is more to customers than meets the eye. I guess you have to explain that later on, yes? Barnabas drives business development, innovation, and product marketing globally. Having joined Giesecke and Devrient in 2012, he first worked on the currency side of its business, managing the sales and service activities of cash cycle solutions across Europe. Previously, he gained valuable experience at the Central Bank of Hungary, where he worked for 13 years, modernizing economic analysis, then cash strategy and operations. A graduate of the London School of Economics, he lives and works in the nice city of Munich in Germany. Barnabas, welcome to this conference. Could you add a few words to Giesecke and Devrient? Probably nearly everybody knows it, but what is the importance for our topic today?
Yeah, thank you, and welcome to our session, everybody. So Giesecke and Devrient is a global security technology group headquartered in Munich. And we are having the mission to engineer trust and secure essential values with solutions across 4 fields of life. One is payments, from cash to cards and even central bank digital currency and digital payments generally. The other is connectivity, and also the identity of people. Identity management is the 3rd field, and digital infrastructures and confidential data protection. This is an old paytech company, you could say, in our industry. It was established in 1852, and we have a strong middle size in the German industry with 2.3 billion euros revenue and around 11,000 employees worldwide in more than 30 countries. With this, I give back the word to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Barnabas. So next, let me welcome Dr. Andreas Martin, who is member of the board at the Federal Association of German Cooperative Banks. So he's member of the board of the Bundesverband der Deutschen Volksbanken und Raiffeisenbanken. After studying economics at the University of Göttingen, he headed the department Payments and Automation at the Federal Association of German Cooperative Banks. Afterwards, he had been member of the board of Deutsche Genossenschaftsverlag, DG Verlag in Wiesbaden, and managing director of the Raiffeisen Druckerei, Wiesbaden. Since 2009, Andreas Martin is a member of the board at the Federal Association of German Cooperative Banks in Berlin. He is responsible for the areas economics, business administration, bank organization, and IT strategy, payments, finance, and organization. Thank you for participating in our conference, Andreas. And would you also say a few words to the BVR, please?
Yes, thank you and hello. The BVR is, as you said, an association, not a bank itself, but we stand for 827 individual banks, cooperative banks in Germany, Volksbanken, Raiffeisenbanken, Sparda-Banken, PSD-Banken, and even specialized institutions like Deutsche Apotheker and Erste Bank. We are based in Berlin, but also in Bonn, where our deposit guarantee scheme is situated. And we have also a branch in Brussels for our European interests. The German Cooperative Banking Association also has subsidiary institutions like the DZ Bank Group with a big insurance company, R&V, a big asset manager like Union Investment, and a big real estate company. So we are a complete financial system, a complete financial cooperative system. And last but not least, we stand for more than 30 million cards, debit and credit cards, physical and digital cards.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, I come to Marco Rummer, who is member of the board at Deutsche Genossenschaftsverlag in Wiesbaden. So Marco Rummer studied business administration at the Munich School of Management at the Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität Munich. And afterwards, he worked in the controlling area of 2 IT companies. Since 2008, Marco Rummer had different leading positions in the technology group Giesecke and Devrient in Singapore and Munich. His last position was Vice President Europe for business solutions with central banks and commercial banks. Since November 2020, he is member of the board of DG Verlag, as well as managing director of the Raiffeisen Druckerei. Both institutions belong to the sector of German cooperative banks, Volksbanken and Raiffeisenbanken. Marco, same to you. Thanks to have you in the conference, in this session. And would you say a few words to your institution?
Sure, thanks for this nice introduction. Yeah, as already said, we are part of the payment industry and especially integrating and developing payment solutions for the German, for the DACH, and maybe some areas in the European market. This is our main pillar, but we are providing additional solutions, procurement solutions for banks and insurance companies, most under the roof of our cooperation group.
Yeah, thank you very much. And last but not least, a few words to my side. So my name is Matthias Fischer. I'm professor in Nuremberg at the Technische Hochschule Nuremberg. Our English name is Institute of Technology Georg Siemens Ohm, and I'm a professor for banking and finance in the Faculty of Business Administration. So since 25 years, I focus on strategy and value management in the banking industry, and also in the last years, well, I also have a focus on fintech business models. And of course, payments is a very important sector also of the new fintech business models and of fintechs and large techs anyway. So I would start with a brief introduction into the topic before I hand over to the speakers. So I think the pandemic, well, we are nearly through, hopefully, might encourage all players in the financial system to pursue innovation more quickly and even more radically. Indeed, the actual success story of fintechs shows us that the digital revolution is still to come in finance as well as in other industries. Therefore, the question might be for me, the future of cards. Do physical cards have a future, or do digital cards have a future? Do we need cards for our payment needs today, but not in the medium and long term? What are the advantages of physical cards compared to mobile payments? All these questions should be discussed in this last session of today's payments conference. Let me introduce the topic broadly with commenting on some global challenges. I would take out 5 mega trends I see globally. First, so far, I think we do not have a harmonized, competitive and innovative European cards payment area. We still observe a lack of interoperability between cards and terminals. We see merchants not accepting certain cards, and cardholders just make different payment experiences across different countries in Europe. So the question for me is, do we get such a harmonized card market in Europe? Or do you think that the differences could lead to a situation where some big tech companies could dominate the market also in Europe because they have one common own platform? This brings me to my second point. The corona pandemic has intensified the acceptance of new online payment methods. Most of large paytechs like PayPal or Alipay have grown successfully because they grew in connection with shopping platforms. This trend was intensified in the last year during the pandemic. E.g., Amazon recorded a 30% increase in sales in Germany in 2020. So the fact that user expectations are changing plays a major role. Payments should be convenient, secure, and fast. And here, US American and perhaps soon also Chinese big techs are often ahead of the game. So this is accompanied by a growing dependency on their services and standards. So a dependency perhaps on the standards of Google or of Alipay or of PayPal. Do we want that? Can we prevent it? Third, blockchain technology. Yeah, in today's conference, it was already talked about blockchain technology, but now in this session, we try to make the connection to the card business, which wasn't covered until now. So distributed ledger technology has the potential to disrupt each and every business model. So it could also have the potential to make the whole financial system or the payment system more resilient. DLT could protect from cyber attacks, for example. Could blockchain technology also be a chance for the future of cards in the payments area, or do we see no impact? Or can distributed ledger technology not only enhance the stability of individual payment transactions, but can it also be a risk for financial stability for payments? Fourth point. Many central banks are already working on a digital currency. We heard about it in the session before. The majority of them carry out tests and feasibility studies. Some are concerned with specifically developing a digital currency or setting up a pilot. It becomes obvious that the analytical work has now progressed so far that some of those involved are now turning more to practical testing. But why are central banks around the world pressing ahead with these considerations right now? The answer for me is that cash is used less by consumers, and we see an increasing dependence on international players in payment transactions. What will be the impact of digital currencies or stable coins on the future of cards? And last point, my fifth point, we see a strong influence of tech giants in the payments business. For e.g., China's tech giants, Alibaba, Tencent, and Baidu, they have successfully expanded into financial services, especially the payments area with Alipay and WeChat. I was quite surprised, well, a few days ago, that was, when Germany played the first game in the European Soccer Championships last Tuesday. I was pretty surprised to see an advertisement for Alipay on German TV, and I said, okay, wow. I know that they are big in China, and I know that Chinese tourists are coming to Nuremberg or to Zurich or to Frankfurt, and they pay with Alipay, but advertisement on a match between France and Germany, that was interesting for me. Alipay is the leading payment platform in China, but now it gets more visibility around the world. It was launched in 2004 and evolved from a digital wallet to a so-called lifestyle enabler. And I think that's the important point. We should not see Alipay or these tech giants only as an instrument for financial services. We have to see it as an ecosystem, and then they are much more dangerous for the competition with traditional banks. So this Alipay app, it's Alipay's Ant Financial's main business. And with Alipay, users can also book a taxi, a hotel room, they can buy movie tickets, they can pay utility bills, they can make appointments with doctors, or they can purchase wealth management products directly within the Alipay app. So it has nearly 1 billion users. So should a player with 1 billion users have a potential effect on the payment market? Of course. And therefore, I would say also regulators have to cope with it. But Alipay, as I explained, is not only an instrument for payments, it is a financial ecosystem and a lifestyle app. And this is the strong point. It's a lifestyle app combining financial behavior with all kind of other consumption behavior. And this is also a threat for cards, I would say. So you can get it all from this one app, the Alipay app, or if you want, you can also get it from the Chinese competitor, WeChat. So these are my points. Thank you very much for this introductory session. And now, well, I would like to start with our first statement. And I would ask Barnabas Ferenczi from Giesecke and Devrient to start with this statement. Thank you, Barnabas.
Thank you. So when I'm thinking about future of cards, 2+1 topic come to my mind, and I would like to reflect on these. First, what has the card ecosystem achieved so far? Where are we? Matthias, you have mentioned a lot of trends, and that's where it comes into play. What has the card ecosystem done so far for payments? The second topic, let's look into the future and see what can make us positive, optimistic that this card ecosystem will evolve, adapt, and play a very important role also in future payment ecosystems. And the +1 topic is that before our fantasy gets very far in the future, we have turbulent times just ahead of us, and also turbulent times we have managed together, banking industry and technology industry, and I would like to reflect on this aspect too. So looking at where we are with the card ecosystem, just paraphrasing my own motto and saying there is more to the card than meets the eye. So card is not only what we see in in-store payment situation where over 90% of the POS non-cash payments take place globally with cards, based on cards. But also if you look beyond and if you look at the alternatives, many of them you have mentioned, Matthias, before, for example, mobile payments or e-commerce payments, we see that most of the mobile wallets and most of the digital wallets and the e-commerce kind of payment possibilities and payment options are card-based. So we have statistics from a lot of sources, and this reveal that even in China, which you mentioned several times as an example for a very disruptive innovation, around 40% of these mobile wallets are card-based. So the card rail ecosystem and even the physical card behind plays a very important role in also the mobile and digital forms of payment. And not only that, even access to cash in the first world is mostly card-based. If you look at the ECB statistics, more than 70% of the people go several times a month to ATMs, and there is a very small proportion of people who use bank branches or cashback services for their cash access. So we can say that without the card, there is no payment ecosystem today in practice for most countries, and without the card, there is also no alternatives working. So the card ecosystem has become very much time-tested and has adopted to the changing consumer expectations that you mentioned, Matthias, also. The second topic, okay, let's look into the future. Disruption is coming. Disruption is the new normal. So will the card ecosystem play a role? Will the physical card play a role? And that's, of course, a very existential question also to Guillaume, they being one of the 3 leading global card specialist manufacturers. And I would like to highlight 2 reasons that give rise to optimism and to hope and to investment in the card. And the one is that I think what banks are actually good at is not physical or digital, but is the combination of the two, phygital. Because they are sitting on a large stock of consumer relations, they are sitting on consumer touch points, and these touch points, when combined physical and digital, they will become also resilient against disruption that goes maybe digital only. So in this phygital world, actually, the bank branch, the card will play an important role if accompanied by a smart digital ecosystem. So the journey of the application for a card, the journey of an account opening, the journey of the card itself should meet the higher consumer expectations like you mentioned, Matthias. So we should move, thanks to new technologies like APIs, like ePIN solutions and these kind of things, to the new world where the consumer sees also that with the card, he or she gets the same phygital experience like when ordering something from Amazon, for example, or eBay. The second reason why the card has a future is that banks will still need a branded touch point with their consumers. With digital apps increasingly dominated by big tech, and with e-commerce transactions not even, you don't even see you are paying. This little piece of card is your most important branded touch point with your consumers. And at the same time, consumers have an increasing desire for a purpose-driven lifestyle. They want to show with their style, with their things, what values they stand for. And one of the very important trends is the sustainability. And the card is an excellent carrier of that message, both for banks as well as for consumers. So that gives rise to a lot of hope. But finally, we have to get down to reality. We lived through, together with banks and the tech companies, very turbulent times. And we can say that in the last 12 months, 18 months, the payment industry, the tech companies and the banks have served their communities very well. The card supply was uninterrupted even during the toughest lockdowns. However, this is not the end of turbulent times, and we have to be mindful of the fact that the chip shortages that are coming from the big Asian chip manufacturers are not only hitting the automotive industry, about which you read everywhere since months, but they are also risking millions of cars worldwide and also in Europe. So we have to keep in mind, and we have to take a concerted action, banks, tech companies, governments and regulators, to make sure that the payment cards get the high priority in the months coming ahead, so that the payment cards can fulfill that essential role that we described so far. So thank you, and with this I give you back the word.
Thank you very much, Barnabas. So on your points, you mentioned sustainability, lifestyle, and chip shortages. I think I will come back on these topics later on when we have the discussion also. And now I would like to hand over to Andreas in Berlin. Welcome, Andreas, and we wait for your statement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. Speaking in terms of weather forecast, I would say we can expect a bright future for cards, at least for the upcoming 5 to 10 years. The good message is electronic payments are a growing business, and cards are drivers in this growing business. Why? First of all, we have a broad acceptance infrastructure, technology in processing and clearing systems. We have strong brands for debit and credit cards, international brands, domestic brands, brands of the issuing banks. And we have deep confidence by consumers and retailers on the functioning of the system. I think this is very strong power of the card system itself. And we are in a business which is full of innovation. Cards are not at an end of innovation. We have interesting developments in cards technology, physical cards as well as digital cards. And as you already mentioned, Corona was a real field test last year. It was the Girocard in Germany, which was a favorite payment method for the German consumers within the crisis. And I would like to give you some figures. The sales in billion euro have grown with 12% on 236 billion euro. The transactions in billion grew on with 22% on 5.5 billion transactions. The POS terminals grew from 871,000 to 904,000, 4% in a major market. And the share of contactless payments grew with 88% from 26.6 to 50.1% in 2020. So there was a very dynamic development in the card business last year. And personally, I was very happy about the willingness of the retailers to actively promote card payments and especially contactless payments to their clients and customers. This was not the case in Germany for a long time of years, and this is a big development within the Corona crisis, that the retailers became promoters of cards payments last year. And at the end, you could see that by value, the Girocard payments are now almost at par with the cash payments, 40.1% to 40.9%. This is also a quite new development in Germany. So I can say, let us continue on this way with even more digitalization and innovation, and the card will have a bright future.
Well, thank you very much, Andreas. So also on these points of confidence for retailers and consumers and the Girocard, of course, I will come back in our discussion. And I would like to hand over to Marco in Wiesbaden. Welcome, Marco, and we wait for your statement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds a bit like we're in a defense mode, but we shouldn't. I think there's the same discussion as cash is dead, and cash is still alive, and cash is king. I think the same applies for cards. You heard it already. The cards or payment with cards increased the last years, and it's even more increasing when you realize, or if you really check the studies, the different studies, ABI or Juniper, they see a 3 to 4 times growth over the next years, and the market share of card-related NFC payments is close to 80%, and so the mobile payments are or will be in the next years around 20%, so it's not really disruptive. Of course, we have a more focus on the German market, and the German market and payment is not even the fastest adapter of new payment means, but at the end, we also have a card production here, and at the end, it's growing. It's a good business, and it's a business, as Andreas already said, for the next 5 to 10 years, we are pretty sure, because we don't believe in disruptive models pushing other solutions away. We believe in coexistence of the models. And the different means of payments or mobile solutions, of course, they have some advantages, but also the cards business has some advantages. Some of them are already highlighted. I want to mention some more now. And I think there's more a fruitful push for both solutions, from the fintechs to the bank payment solutions, from the banks with their tradition, with their know-how, with their asset heaviness and their power, to the fintech. So we strongly believe in a coexistence of solutions. I think we all agree the e-books, did they really push away books? Not really. The TV, did it push away radio? We are still watching TV. It's not only Netflix, so I think there will be a coexistence for the next couple of years. We're pretty sure. There are even some more advantages. It's already highlighted. We have a running infrastructure. And when you think on traveling, would you rely on a mobile solution traveling to less infrastructure, maturity countries? I'm not sure. I have my doubts. So I'm pretty sure that cards will remain and will be the first means of payment when it comes also to traveling. Where's the money for fraud coming to? Is it really on hardware topics or is it more in software? So the card has a running trustful security system. So we also have to mention this, and as already Barnabas said, the bank, the last visit or business card of a bank with haptical, with emotional, with design things is a debit or credit card. And we shouldn't hide or forget all these emotional topics around. And at the end, there are new solutions, and the card as a carrier could develop. So there are new technologies when it comes to sustainability, or when it comes to biometrics, or adding value on the card, like, as you said, Matthias, the ecosystem. And in the middle of an ecosystem, we strongly believe banks are in the middle of the ecosystem. They are connecting the customers with suppliers, with the market. With their card, or they have the right to play as an ecosystem, and then the card is a good carrier for developing these ecosystems for loyalty products, or even also, as you mentioned, for transit. So adding value and not forgetting the big advantages of cards, and we believe in a strong coexistence for the next years as well.
Thank you very much for your statement. And I have to say, 30 years ago, I handed in at the University of Nuremberg my master thesis. And it had the topic of a comparison of credit cards in Germany and in France. So that was 30 years ago. And in fact, we have seen 30 years of a success story of the card as a business model, success story of cards for consumers, but also for banks. So usually, well, I care about the strategy in banking and about value creation, value management for banks. But now I would like to start the discussion with from the view of the consumer, of the client. Imagine that, well, I even don't have a smartphone. Imagine that I'm getting old. How do you guarantee that I can always continue my payments behavior also in the future? So, or do we absolutely need a smartphone? Are we forced to use a smartphone? Or can all the clients also pay in the future without a smartphone? I would like to hand this question from the consumer side to Andreas, because he represents something like, with his organization, 13 million retail clients. And I think from the consumer side, it's an important question that you always guarantee that all your clients, even the older clients, even those who do not want to use a smartphone, have the possibility to pay everywhere.
Yeah, of course, I think that we should give maximal choice to the customer. There are a lot of methods of payments successful in the market. We talk about cards, we talk about online payments, we talk about the smartphone as a form factor, or as a plastic card as a form factor. And of course, we talk about cash, as Barnabas already said. So our position, and I think this is also the position of the consumers and the consumer associations, is to give maximal choice to the customer and not to discriminate one method of payment. And of course, we as bankers and also as technology providers, we have to be maximal flexible to react to the wishes of the customers, and maybe, of course, in an economic sense, to adopt our offer for cash and for ATMs, maybe. But first of all, these payment methods should be in the market for our customers' choice. And so we as a banking association will not phase out one method against the wishes of our customers.
Thank you very much. And perhaps I would like to hand on the same question also again to Barnabas and to Marco. How do you see the future there? Do we still have the physical card in the future? The digital card, yes. But I would say there are many people also who would like to have the physical card in their pocket as a matter of security. Yeah, in the session before, in one of the sessions before, we also talked about cyber attacks, about the problem that a network or internet is not always guaranteed. So I would say that would be a point for the physical card. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we start Marco first and then Barnabas.
Yeah, thanks for sharing my thoughts on that. We already touched the topic of demography, and I think we have to be aware that there is a high number of people who won't use it, who can't use it. So we need this kind of openness on solutions, as Andreas said. When it comes to fraud and where's the money going in, I think it's going into the cybersecurity software area. So that's only a small part of the card. So it will be a trustful and secure solution also for the next years. When you ask the customers, I think there are also some, we shouldn't forget this, on the chip there are some more functions on like the age verification. So it's also used for getting your cigarettes and something like that. So there are also additional benefits on a card you can't duplicate in a digital world. So at the end, it's a multiple topics, even as already said, the emotional topic for giving a credit card, or even we are really surprised by the push of metal cards. Metal cards, they are heavy, they are thicker, but they are absolutely sexy. So it's an unbelievable high number, much more than planned, are ordering now these metal cards. So there is something emotional. We shouldn't forget to promote, to show that you're part of a bank, that you are part of a special group, like a premium bank group or something like that. So it's from the customer side, there are also emotional or hidden topics that will support cards in the future as well, and that are asked for.
Barnabas, you want to add?
Absolutely. I think these are very valid points. So we see a confluence of different trends. The banks need this branded property, as we already discussed, and the consumers, they want to live out their purpose-driven lifestyle. And here what Marco mentioned with the metal card is a prime example of this. This you are special feeling that consumers want to kind of represent and also demonstrate, that is much easier with the physical thing. And at the same time, what Matthias, you mentioned at the beginning with Alipay and WeChat Pay, that in the successful business models, there is a fitting ecosystem around that branded property. So for example, there is a German bank who gives out a metal card to the UR special card holders, and there is a lot of services around that. card. So there is a concierge service, there is a loyalty program, there is point service. So that ecosystem creates almost like a consumer journey where it really makes sense to have this heavy special card. The same with the eco card. It's not only about the card, but the card journey should be also ecological, so the consumer feels that they are part of the whole end-to-end ecosystem. And also, maybe the card can be part of a community, whether it's saving ocean or using petroleum-free plastic. So you are part of a community which gives an extra value to that piece of property. So also, other features that are coming to the market, like extra security via biometric features, what Marco also mentioned, these are giving a new life to the card. And as we mentioned already, demographics. We are now in Europe at a conference focused mostly on European issues. And in Europe, of course, the demographic situation is so that we have a high proportion of older people, and there is an aging society. And at the same time, like we mentioned at the beginning, there is a very well-developed infrastructure on card acceptance and card processing side. So the two factors, the infrastructure and the demographics, they play a role that here more evolutive innovation will take place within the ecosystem. But let's not forget that beyond Europe, there are, like Marco mentioned, if you travel, there are other geographies where the demography is very different. There is a very youthful, rapidly growing population, and there is no mature infrastructure. So there, a leapfrogging type of development, where you move from a purely cash-based society, maybe directly to more mobile, that is not a surprise. It would be a surprise in mature markets like Europe.
Thank you very much, Barnabas. One point which was already mentioned today was also the point sustainability. I mean, for me, the point sustainability has one characteristic, it's ecological. But sustainability should never forget that when we talk about sustainability, that sustainability means it's a long-term viable solution. So when we talk sustainability in the card system, it must be ecological, but it should also support long-term viable solutions for the clients. What are the ideas on sustainability in your institutions, in your organizations? Who would like to start? Andreas?
Yes, thank you. First of all, payments are only a part of the sustainability strategy of a bank. You have also to look on credits and also on the operations of the bank. But looking on cards, 2 points are remarkable. We see cards with expiry time of 4 years. So this is a sustainable product. And we have in our systems quite a high percentage of offline transactions. Both aspects are sustainable aspects, and in comparison to certain online methods where you need at every time an internet connection, I think this is also a factor of sustainability, but also a factor of reliability.
Yeah, thanks. Marco, and then Barnabas.
Yeah, and to add, and I think it was already highlighted, we have a running infrastructure, and this is also sustainable because there's no need to change it. If you go into a new solution, it might be to adopt infrastructure and even on hardware, and also, of course, when it comes to blockchain, that is high energy assumption. It comes also to a high invest in not sustainable solutions. We at DG Verlag, we are also producing and developing cards, and when it comes to this, there are sustainable cards out there. There are wooden cards. There are cards based on corn. There are recycled plastic cards. There are ocean plastic cards. But at the end, it's not only the material, it's also, as Barnabas said, the complete supply chain of these cards. Where's the origin of the material? What is the transportation? How many air miles, etc. So there are sustainable solutions, and the card as itself would be a marketing instrument to show that I'm sustainable.
And we can actually, if I may, go beyond that. So if you think about successful business models offering an ecosystem, then it really starts with the journey of the card, like Marco mentioned. And that's quite a journey. I mean, if you think of the more than 3 billion chip cards for payments that are produced and delivered each year. So if we focus on that, then we will make, together with banks and the technology companies, a major contribution. And also the branded aspect of having a sustainable material card makes the consumer a multiplicator. So if we believe in the market research saying that in the next 4 or 5 years, 1/5 to 1/4 of all new contactless cards will be based on sustainable materials, we can say we are moving to a new normal where the use of first-use plastic will be declining. And we see already the first banks making a pledge. We are moving the whole standard card portfolio to recycled PVC. So that will have an impact. But you can go also beyond. You can create a sustainable lifestyle as a bank for your consumers. So of course, the whole industry is making the payment journey easier. We talk about frictionless payments. But you can ask the question whether frictionless in that sense is really what consumers all want. Maybe there is a kind of design friction or optimal friction where you add something to the payment process or purchase process, information that enables the consumer to live a more sustainable lifestyle. So that's why, for example, our company is partnering up with a startup from Scandinavia that offers this kind of transparency. So when you make a purchase with your card, you get the information how much CO2 footprint you have kind of generated and how you can mitigate it. And if you create such an ecosystem from the card material, from the card journey, like Marco mentioned, the whole supply chain aspect, until you are touching also the purchase transactions, whether it is with a POS or a mobile or a digital transaction, then as a bank, you are enabling and also leveraging very successfully this sustainable drive in the society.
In today's conference, we also talked about blockchain technology, tokenization. We haven't done the link to the card system. Do we need also cards in the future to store our cryptocurrency, our stable coin, or do we just need our smartphone? Is there any connection between cards and stable coins or cryptocurrencies? But who would like to answer first? Barnabas, you would like to answer first, then Marco? Yeah.
If you allow as a technology company, of course, and we have 2 reasons to think why cards will be also part of such alternative ecosystems. First, if you look at, let's say, the more payments use cases, which is basically CBDC or stable coins. So these are the candidates for real payments, while the tokenized assets and let's say cryptocurrency is more an investment and a speculative asset type of category. So for the payment type, like Andreas mentioned already, the possibility to allow for offline payments without internet connectivity is very important. All those central banks surveyed and saying 80% of them are interested in CBDC, many of them are in emerging markets where the offline use case is very important. But we can reveal here the big secret that even in Germany, there are places where you don't get a good internet connection. And for the offline use case, you can use a card. You can, of course, use other things like a wearable, but a card is a prime and well-known factor. So as we are talking to a lot of central banks globally about CBDC, and have just recently announced a pilot project in Asia, I can say that there is a lot of interest for this type of inclusion and offline use cases with a card. And if you look at the more, let's say, for us, maybe in payments industry, exotic world of cryptocurrency and you know, assets here, the so-called cold storage use case is something that is very interesting also with the card, where you want to have an offline storage possibility, just like a Trezor for your gold or cash. So this is something that will also show some new use cases.
Thank you. And Marco, do you see cryptocurrencies and stable coins? Well, cryptocurrencies, they're already there, and we have very successful business models, extremely successful business models, crypto exchanges, which emerge there. And sooner or later, we are going to see also the first stable coins with euro or dollar behind. Which role does this play in your strategy, in your planning? And what could be the chance also for your company when it comes to cryptocurrencies or stable coins?
So at the end, maybe we don't believe in cryptocurrencies, the same as Barnabas said, because we believe in central bank money. If it's different with a stable coin or even a programmable coin, at the end, as a production supply company, I don't care, because these new payment means will need a carrier. The carrier, of course, could be an app on a mobile solution, but you already said that there are still some advantages to have a card as a carrier. So we will integrate these kind of solutions on our card. And at the end, you don't see if you're transporting a euro via your bank account or a central bank digital euro currency directly from card to card or via the POS. So we invest in solutions that are applicable on our cards, of course, also on the digital twins, so in our wallet, or at the end, we also have to develop, when it will come to a broad mass acceptance here from the consumers, into our application solutions on our mobile. So at the end, we see an advantage, and as Andreas said in the middle of the meeting, we have to give the customers the freedom to use their most convenient lifestyle payment behavior.
Yeah, thank you. At the last point of our session, I want to comment again on the new entrants into the market, like PayPal or Alipay. Andreas, you mentioned the importance of a strong brand. I mean, Volksbanken and Raiffeisenbanken, they have a good reputation. They have a very strong brand in Germany. And the brand has confidence by retailers and consumers. But PayPal, as a new entrant, has also confidence, and PayPal communicates to the clients that they can bring growth to their business. So how can you make sure in the future that your brand will be very strong also with young generations? Your brand can compete also against the big techs like PayPal. What is your strategy?
Matthias, you're right. Confidence alone is not a guarantee for success. We need confidence and convenience. And in this field, we are working very strong with our data center, Fiducia and GRD, to integrate card solutions with the account, to integrate card solutions with the banking app. And I think this must be the answer of the banks, to create an ecosystem around the card, not to isolate the card as a device, but to create an ecosystem around the card with which you can have direct access to the whole universum of finance products.
Well, up to the moment, I learned quite a lot today, I would say. Well, I heard at least one lesson. It's not the end of the cards. And I learned also that absolutely we need the card system also because it's a sustainable network. It works, it is secure, it is stable, and well, it works for the consumer worldwide. Yeah, so well, from my side, I want to thank a lot to Barnabas Ferenczi from Giesecke and Devrient. I want to thank a lot to Dr. Andreas Martin in Berlin at the Association of German of the German Cooperative Banks, and thanks a lot also to Marco Roma in Wiesbaden from DG Verlag. Thanks a lot to these insights in the card business systems. Thanks a lot. As we come to the end of the session, I would like also to thank a lot the International Bankers Forum for the organization of our session of today's payments conference. And thanks a lot also to Nada Maleki, the president of the IBF. And I would like to hand over now for the closing remarks to Nada Maleki. Thank you very much, and please stay with us for the closing remarks of Nada Maleki. And thanks to the participants, and thanks to everybody joining for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthias, thank you too. And also to Barnabas, Andreas, and Marco. I think it was a quite long day, and I have to admit, I also learned a lot. When I decided that I want to do a European payment conference, I think it was last year, I spent most of my free time in reading. And but still, I think I learned a lot. So thank you all, to all of you. We, to give also some numbers, we had about 40 experts speaking at our conference. We had today about 500 participants, and it was day one. So we are going to continue tomorrow with our money laundering conference. We will start 1 hour later, so at 9:30. It would be great if you find some time to join us. And I also would like you to save the date for next year, because the investment for this year was a lot. So I think it would be a little bit easier next year. So you are all most welcome to be with us next year. We are going to do the IBF Summit on the 2nd and the 3rd of June 2022. Of course, when you do such conferences, you need partners, you need sponsors. So let me thank IFIS Financial Solution and Bearing Point for supporting this conference. Also Anaton and WeWork. And we had interesting partners like the Frankfurt Payment Network, CEP, Centers of European Policy Network, and the European Banking Federation. And of course, our media partners, IT Finance Magazine and Die Bank. So it was an interesting day. We learned a lot. I do hope that you also enjoyed, and hope to see you soon, giving you some dates of the next events of the International Bankers Forum. So we invite you already now also to the European Digital Week, which will be from the 1st to the 5th of November. And of course, Bank of the Future next year on the 16th and 17th, I will contact you because I have very interesting ideas for our next year, because we are doing Bank der Zukunft for the 25th time. That means since 25 years. Good. Thank you. Have a nice evening, and hopefully see you, some of you, tomorrow. Bye-bye.